Hello, my name is Dean Contover, and this is Current Buzz. Thank you for watching. I want to say something that I have a representative, Simon Cataldo, great guy, was on the show before. Welcome back as a representative.
Dean, thank
before that, you were running for a state rep. So this is the end of your first term.
That's right.
Right? And now you're going to be running for your second term. Are there any challenges?
There's no one else on the ballot this time.
No one else is, oh, okay.
Much different than last time.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me how you felt when you were elected as state rep. I mean, was there a feeling? Was there adrenaline? Or what was
It felt great. It felt great. You know, it was something that was very new for me. Coming into running for office, I hadn't done anything political. I had been a special education teacher and a federal prosecutor, but I hadn't worked on campaigns, and so it was all new, and I was learning, and I did feel a lot of pressure because there were so many people who were working for my election, who were supporting me, who were doing everything that they possibly could, taking time out of their lives, out of their family lives, their work lives to try to get me into this office. And partly because of that, I really wanted to win, and I also really wanted the job. I'm a competitive person, like I think many people who run for public office are. I didn't want to lose, and I didn't want to win, and so I felt very, very happy and also very relieved that I won on the primary. The primary was probably the more competitive of the two races. We live in a fairly blue district here in the 14th Middlesex, and then I also had a general election opponent, which was also a great experience to be able to have those conversations with somebody who I respected but disagreed with on a bunch of topics, and that was great too. And then the best part of it was getting sworn in January, over a year and a half ago now.
Okay. So I'd be remiss not to ask you about your family. That's very important. You have a newborn, right?
I do. Well, he feels new, but he's already a year and a half old.
Wow, is it?
And he has two older brothers. So
wow.
My wife Jessie and I have 3 little boys.
Right.
Yes, and they're doing great.
And how is she doing?
She's doing really well. Our oldest is in kindergarten now. So
wow, time flies when you're having fun.
And you know, it's given me a newfound respect for parents who have multiple kids in school, because the logistics of that, you have to have an advanced degree in logistics just to manage the children and their school schedules and their activities. So we have 3 now, and we feel very blessed to have 3 children, to live in a community that supports kids, that has good public schools, in a state that really champions that. That's nothing to be taken for granted.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. Yes. And on that note, we saw just today that MCAS scores have continued to drop in English this year in Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
So this is something that we need to be focused on.
Now that's on the ballot, whether to continue MCAS or not to continue it. I'm not going to get into that with you, into the weeds about that, but that is on the ballot. That's one of the issues.
Yes. I mean, I think the important thing is that we all have in mind is that any change away from accountability needs to be done very thoughtfully, because the trend that we have right now in Massachusetts is not the direction we want to go, and that's going to cause us to have hard conversations about what's wrong and what needs to change, in addition to building upon the really great foundation that we have in public education in Massachusetts right now.
I want to say that you are rep on precincts 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 in Chelmsford.
That's right.
Right. There are 3 state reps in Chelmsford.
Yes.
And you know them well.
Yes, we work together.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys work together. That's very important when it comes to legislation. I'd like to talk to you about something that you started and we had discussed prior to you running when you were running for state rep. Is Harlem lacrosse. How's that doing? And are we going to have Lowell lacrosse? That's what I want to know.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
If it were up to me, every kid would have lacrosse and many other sports in their school districts. I founded Harlem Lacrosse when I was a special education teacher in Harlem. It was the only sport for boys in the large Central Harlem Middle School where I taught in New York City.
That's what impressed
only
me
organized
about you, yeah.
sport. Now that has changed because of the success that we had doing that. We expanded and the program became national, and it's now operating in Dorchester, Mattapan, and East Boston with a lot of success. And I'd like to see that expand. After 13 years as the president and founder of that organization, I stepped down because I had some other obligations that were really
your
pressing.
family.
And the organization in some states was starting to get some public funding, and it just made more sense for me to step away from my official role. I am very interested in making sure that we do whatever we can as a state to really advance youth health in all aspects. I think we are failing our kids in terms of the amount of free play they get, the amount of organized exercise and out-time activity they get. What we're feeding our kids is wrong, and we are seeing the effects of that as our population ages. The number of obese people in the United States right now is over 40% of the population.
Right.
That is seriously wrong.
Right.
We need to be focused on that. Our government needs to be focused on that. I mean, we talk about the ballooning healthcare expenses in our country right now, including in Massachusetts. I sit on the Financial Services Committee in the legislature,
Yes.
which is
That's one of the committees that you sit on.
and it has the most bills of any of the committees that I have. I sit on other important committees that I'm happy to talk about, but in financial services, everything involving insurance comes through that committee.
Oh.
And we just see day after day harrowing testimonials of chronic diseases that we know are correlated with diet and exercise. Everything from brain diseases to cancer to diseases that have to do with people's weight. And we need to be fixing that. I mean, you know, people would like to talk about conspiracy theories. To me, the best one was right out in the open. We had a pyramid of telling people what to eat that the government was pushing out to everybody, including me. When I was in school, when I was in middle school, I was told that I should be eating more carbohydrates, processed carbohydrates, than any other type of food by the government. Okay?
By the government.
By the government.
Okay.
Everybody knows what pyramid I'm talking about. If you've lived in the United States for the last 10 years, you know what pyramid I'm talking about, right? This was our government that was telling us to eat the wrong things. And now, surprise, surprise, we have chronic obesity, and we have many other chronic diseases.
Simon.
I'm not a doctor, but you don't have to be a doctor to know that that was seriously wrong. And I'm not really sure that the government has done enough to reverse that wrong, really.
I'm going to tell you a story. I had a relative that came from Europe, and she said there are a lot of heavy children that she sees and she doesn't see in Europe.
Right, right. It's because of what we feed these kids. It's because a lot of them are looking at this all day.
Of late, yeah.
And they don't go outside. You know, I was not very happy to learn. I love our school system, and we did something really important in Massachusetts in the legislature, led by the House. It was one of the speaker's main priorities, was free school meals in school.
That's great.
And I know that that is critical because as a teacher, we actually, when I was a special education teacher in a very low-income community, we started implementing free school breakfasts.
What a difference
First
that
period.
makes, doesn't it?
What a difference, Dean. What a difference. This is one of the best things that our government, our state government, has done for a long time, I think. But when my kid goes to kindergarten, they put chocolate milk in front of him every day. That's an abomination. Our government, your taxes, should not be paying for small children to be drinking chocolate milk in school every day. It makes you sick. That amount of sugar makes you sick. And that's wrong.
And make sure
That's
it's
wrong.
pasteurized milk.
We want to make sure that people aren't getting sick. But I will tell you, I'm going to tell you a little bit of health information about me. I'm slightly lactose intolerant.
Okay.
And I have a family member who has cows. I've been lactose intolerant my whole life, Dean, my whole life. And I drank their unpasteurized milk. Didn't feel anything. Didn't feel anything. Come to find out that this is actually very common. And there are places in Massachusetts now that you can get unpasteurized milk, and it's safe to do that. And if you go on the state's website, you can find these different places. You just type it into Google. So if you're like me and you like milk, but you might have some issues, the state helps out with finding where you can do that.
Well, I have. There's a farmer from Drake that told me that he's pro pasteurized milk, but I digress. Simon, I was told that in the VA, the veterans that come in, 70% were obese. And they were trying to do something about it. I know that they had programs in the VA to do something about it, so I just want to let you know. But I'd like to change the subject, and I'd like to talk about the commission on the Massachusetts flag and the motto that possibly may get changed. I'm a flag person. I follow flags all over the country and all over the world. I probably can, you can show me a flag and 50% of them I can get, I can tell you what country they come from. But there's a commission, I think it's second time around, is that correct?
Yes.
Can you tell me something, what's going on? Why can't we have a challenge in regards to the citizens of Massachusetts coming up with a flag, especially with computers, computer-generated flag and so forth, or let the students or colleges, come up with their flag and see what the people like. I like flags like Alaska. I think Utah just changed their flag. California has a flag that you could put on a T-shirt. Our flag, you can't put it on the T-shirt. No one would know what it is.
Maine recently changed its flag. I'm glad we're talking about Maine did. The state of Maine.
Yeah, I know. I have.
First of all,
I have the states. Where were the states? Illinois, Maine, Michigan, Minnesota, Massachusetts is pending. So is Nebraska.
Yeah.
And Utah just changed this.
So first of all, I love flags too. I'm wearing a flag right now.
Oh, cool.
Our country's flag.
Okay.
And by the way, a lot of people have been coming up to me recently saying, I don't know if I really want to put a flag out at my house. Maybe it has some kind of affiliation with a political party that I don't like. The American flag does not have a political affiliation.
No.
And I will say that in Chelmsford, of the 4 towns I represent, there are way more American flags in yards than the other communities I represent. There's nothing I'm going to do about that as a state legislator, but I'd like to see that change. Everyone should be proud of and have
The
no
state flag?
our American flag.
Okay.
The stars and stripes.
Right.
The state flag is also something that it's important that everyone's proud of. And while I know there are many different viewpoints on this, I think that it's important that if there are large segments of our population that in particular, and for those people who are watching who weren't familiar with the background on this, there are people who are offended, in particular members of our Native American community, who are offended by our current flag.
Right.
And
Which has an American Indian, Native American,
Yes.
indigenous person.
as a result, the legislature created the commission that you mentioned to make a recommendation about what the new flag should be.
What's the recommendation?
The commission recommended that the flag be changed.
Okay, I agree
And
with that.
did not say what it should be changed to. So there's more work that remains to be done. Having had this conversation with you, Dean, I feel like one thing that I want to do is get you appointed to the next iteration of the commission so that you can be working about this, because this is something.
It'd be a long drive to the State House.
Well, I think a lot of those meetings are hybrid, actually.
Oh, okay.
And in fact, I was just appointed as the chair of one of the new commissions, the new state commissions.
On what?
The Commission on Anti-Semitism,
Oh,
which
okay.
was passed into law over the summer.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to working on that. And I know from my work on another commission that I had previously been appointed to by the Speaker and that I'm still serving on, which is the Restorative Justice Advisory Committee, that many of the meetings are hybrid. So if you get on one of these state commissions, or if anybody watching does, or if somebody wants to,
you mean
they
I
should
have to
contact
zoom
me.
in?
You can zoom in.
Oh.
You can zoom in.
You have to show me how to zoom. So.
Well, you've got so much technology here in the studio, Dean. You could do it from here.
Probably. Another question I have in regards to signs, in regards to going from one community and another, there are these white signs that saying enter in Lowell or enter in Chelmsford and that type of thing. And I was told by the DPW, Department of Public Works, that they can only put those signs on state roads. Now, a few years ago, we had county roads where the county took care of the roads. So they're saying that only, let's say, in comparison to Route 110, you could put it on there, or Route 40, you could put a town sign there. But these other roads coming into Chelmsford or other communities, you can't put that sign. And you have a sign there.
I do, and I don't know if it's possible to zoom in on this.
Okay, well,
but I've got a little magnet here.
Okay.
At entering Chelmsford.
Right, that's what you did.
Magnet
Come here,
for which
Let's
I
see-
did today.
Let's see if the zoom could zoom in there. Just put it up to that camera. Yeah, there
right.
it is. Yeah,
Here we
there it
go.
is. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Dean, I agree. This is important. If
I
you're coming
agree.
into Chelmsford, you should know.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't matter whether you're on a state road or a local road.
I agree.
Or a county road or federal highway.
I agree.
That's important to me.
Everybody knows that sign coming into
Right.
Massachusetts.
Right. It's a
People
point.
have it
It's a
on their
point of
t-shirt.
pride, and it's also important.
People have it on a T-shirt.
I have it on a T-shirt
Oh, you
because
do?
I recently became a customer of the Den at Beaverbrook, which is right across from Fishbones. It's a new store in Chelmsford.
Okay, I didn't know.
Owned by born and bred Chelmsford residents,
Right.
and they just had their ribbon cutting the other day. I have an awesome
And what's the name of the store?
the Den at Beaverbrook. It's
The
right across
Den-
from Fishbones there,
Okay, I know where it is.
and it's awesome. And I encourage people to go
Oh, good.
check it out. They've got a lot of Chelmsford-specific gear and apparel that I think is awesome.
Okay, that's good.
In any event, back to the signs.
Right.
It's funny because you told me that you wanted to talk about this. We did a little bit of research in our office and got a little bit of some different information. So
All right.
this is a good exercise in what happens when you call my office,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So
That's right,
It's
you have your
important
phone-
for people to know.
You have
right?
your phone up there. and
I
you
do.
have
My
your-
phone number is right up there.
Yeah,
You should
call.
call. People can go to my website, my official office's website, repcataldo.com,
Right.
R-E-P Cataldo, C-A-T-A-L-D-O.com, and find my contact information. But when somebody like you, a constituent, contacts me and says, I have this question about state government, or I'm not even sure if this is a state government issue, but can you help me sort that out? Then we do our own research and we try to find out what the answer is. So far, we think that these signs can go on local roads with the permission of the municipality. And that's something that we can work through together if it's in my district, if it's in the part of Chelmsford that's my district, and if not,
Yeah.
I work with my colleagues, Jim Arciero and Rodney Elliott,
Right.
the other two state reps. But I wanted to tell you about another sign issue
Okay.
about Walden Pond.
All
Can we
right.
talk about that?
Yeah,
You want to talk about that later?
We'll talk about it later because
Okay.
I wanted to talk about 250th anniversary.
Oh, great.
of
It's
this
my favorite
nation.
topic.
Yeah,
I love talking about that.
You live in Concord. The towns that you have are Carlisle, Concord, Acton, parts of Chelmsford.
Yes, all of which, and it's important for people in Chelmsford to understand
Right.
and know.
And new people coming into Chelmsford
Yes,
should understand.
if you've recently moved to Chelmsford, you should understand that this community had a major role in the American Revolution and in the Revolutionary War, including from the very beginning, including from April 19th, 1775, when the Chelmsford Minutemen walked down. And every year on Patriots Day or that weekend, the Chelmsford Minutemen march
That's right.
down.
4 o'clock in the morning.
And they're there. And I'm friends with a bunch of them.
Yep.
And it's really important. And this year, we are going to be celebrating, this coming spring, we're going to be celebrating our 250th anniversary of the shot heard around the world and that first battle of the American Revolutionary War in which Chelmsford residents participated.
Are you going to march in the parade
I'm going to do anything they let me
in
do.
Chelmsford? Oh, okay.
In Chelmsford, I always march at the
you
July
always
4th
march.
parade.
You always march.
But there's also a Patriots Day parade, which is what I thought you were asking about.
Oh.
And that's when the Chelmsford Minutemen walk down.
Okay.
And they participate in that, and I will hopefully be marching in that parade with them.
Cool.
For the 200th anniversary in Concord, Gerald Ford, then President Gerald Ford, came, and we're expecting significant dignitaries to come.
I
this year
agree.
for
I mean, it's
250.
great. I think it's super. I don't know what the plan is in Chelmsford. I don't know if they have a plan. I hope most of these communities do.
I think it's my understanding folks are talking about it, and some communities are devoting funding for their own celebrations. Others, I think, are taking a little bit of a wait-and-see approach in terms of what the state's going to do to pitch in. Now, I had helped work on a very significant appropriation for a supplemental budget of about $20 million for localities for their celebrations around the Commonwealth, including, of course, Chelmsford, for the 250th anniversary. That was included in the House's version of the budget. It didn't make through the conference committee budget the last time, but it's something that we're still working on. It's very important to me that communities have state support to recognize the 250th, because we need to be talking about and remembering what happened there, and why people were fighting. I mean, we are, people say, oh, democracy is at risk and stuff like that. Well, okay, let's talk about what was happening in 1774. Mm-hmm. And at that time, there was a discussion going on in Chelmsford, in Concord, in Acton, in our communities about whether we wanted government to be something that the Crown could use to either give us rights or take them away based on his own benevolence and mood, or whether we wanted government to be something whereby your rights were natural rights. You were born with individual liberties, no matter who your parents were or where you were born, and that was something that could only be limited vis-a-vis the consent of the people through a democratic government. That's a conversation we should be having now.
Simon, this school, Lieutenant Colonel Moses Parker was wounded at Bunker Hill, where the studio is located, Parker Middle School. He was wounded, taken prisoner in Boston, and died on July 4th, 1775.
Yes.
A lot of people in Chelmsford don't know that.
And we need to be talking about that.
Right,
we need to be
agree.
talking about the sacrifices that those folks made. I mean, that act of revolution was so beyond the pale, so many ticks farther than what we consider to be patriotic service now, because it was truly overturning an entire system of government that was not representative.
You mentioned earlier shots heard around the world, right, in regards to the Concord battle.
Yes.
Explain what that means.
So
I have 2 minutes.
That term was coined by Ralph Waldo Emerson years after that battle. But the interesting thing to me about that situation is that those Minutemen who were fighting there, they did not know whether any shots had been fired when the Royal Army was coming from Boston to Concord.
Well, they went to Lexington.
They went to Lexington, but word never got to them by the time the Royal Army got to Concord. So they didn't know whether they were starting a war or not.
Right.
But they still had the courage and the vision to take a stand.
That's very, and because of that, other countries try to obtain their freedom from colonialism in the world, whether it was Africa, Europe, Asia. That was the step that started this whole thing.
That was the beginning of the United States, which then was not even the United States, becoming the beacon of freedom and democracy around the world, a mantle and a reputation that I think we still hold. We don't always exhibit leadership to the extent that I would like, but we still have primacy in that regard, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a litany of things that I want to talk to you about, but the show is about to end, and
that's a good reason to invite me back, Dee.
Okay,
please,
good.
Because you know I love talking.
Oh, love it. Yeah, I will invite you back anytime you want to come. I know you have your own TV show. Where is that? Is that filmed at the State House?